Hey guys, so I've been working on this Bible study, if you will, and it's going to be teaching on God's grace and why God's grace is not really a license to sin. And it's not, yes, we are saved by grace, but just because God's got grace on us doesn't mean we're making it to heaven. And it's going to be taught in, I think, 3 parts. And bear with me if I'm looking down a lot, because I'm not used to doing this kind of stuff, but I feel like I've got something that God gave me and I want to share it. So I'm going to do it for Jesus. And bear with me. So this is called Saved by Grace. So to start off, a popular saying, and I know you've probably heard it if you're a Christian, whether you believe this doctrine or not. Well, I believe that we're saved by grace, but whether that's all you believe or not, I'm sure you've heard it. But a popular saying in the Christian community is saved by grace and not by works. Although this is true, people misunderstand this. So the ways that people misunderstand this is that they teach and they think that you have no spiritual accountability because of God's grace. Oh, he's a gracious God, so I can still do whatever I want and go to heaven. On the contrary, we are told to obey God's commandments time and time again in the Old and the New Testament. So we're going to look at Jeremiah 7:23. But this thing commanded I them, saying, Obey my voice, and I will be your God, and ye shall be my people, and walk ye in all the ways that I have commanded you, that it may be well unto you. So faith without works is dead, y'all. Yes, we're saved by God's grace, but we got to obey. So Deuteronomy 11:27. There we go. A blessing if ye obey the commandments of the Lord your God, which I command you this day. The blessing is if you obey. Now we're going to go to the New Testament. We're going to go to Revelation 14:12. That's Revelation 14:12. I know I said 12 kind of funny, so here we go. Here is the patience of the saints. Here are they that keep the commandments of God and the faith of Jesus. You got to keep the commandments and the faith. 1 John 5:3. For this is the love of God, that we keep his commandments, and his commandments are not grievous. So that's the love of God, is you keeping his commandments. That's God showing you he loves you by you obeying his commandments. Because his commandments are there for our safety and for us to make it to heaven. And the Bible is filled with examples of people not obeying God's commandments and being punished for it. For example, Aaron makes a golden calf for Israel. What commandment was it that he broke? Thou shalt have no other God before me. And he also lied, because if you go to Exodus 32:4, and we're about to go there now, Aaron, and he received them at their hand and fashioned it with a graving tool. So he's saying that I think this is, after he had made it, so he received the gold from the Israelites, from their hands, and he fashioned this calf with a graving tool. And after he had made it, a molten calf, and they said, These be thy gods, O Israel, which brought thee up out of the land of Egypt. Who brought the Israelites out of the land of Egypt? Was it that golden calf, or was it Yahweh, Jehovah? That was a lie. And God is a jealous God. It wasn't the golden calves that saved the Israelites from Egypt, it was God. And God was not happy about it, because he responds. Exodus 32, chapter 32, verses 31 through 35, God's response to this. And Moses returned unto the Lord and said, O this people have sinned a great sin, and have made them gods of gold. Yet now, if thou wilt forgive their sin, and if not, blot me, I pray thee, out of thy book, which thou hast written. And the Lord said unto Moses, Whosoever hath sinned against me, him will I blot out of my book. Therefore now go, lead the people unto the place of which I have spoken unto thee. Behold, mine angel shall go before thee. Nevertheless, in the day when I will visit their sin upon them. And the Lord plagued the people, because they made the calf which Aaron made. Another example. The first king of Israel, King Saul. He was rebellious. Saul's sin was rebellion. Saul seemed to have a character flaw of wanting to do everything his own way. The first example of this is 1 Samuel 13, chapter 13, verses 8 through 12. And he tarried 7 days according to the set time that Samuel had appointed. But Samuel came not to Gilgal, and the people were scattered from him. And Saul said, Bring hither a burnt offering to me, and peace offerings. And he offered the burnt offering. And it came to pass that as soon as he had made an end of offering the burnt offering, behold, Samuel came, and Saul went out to meet him, that he might salute him. And Samuel said, What hast thou done? And Saul said, Because I saw that the people were scattered from me, and that thou camest not within the days appointed, and that the Philistines gathered themselves together at Michmash. Therefore said I, The Philistines will come down now upon me to Gilgal, and I have not made supplication unto the Lord. I forced myself, therefore, and offered a burnt offerings. And Samuel said to Saul, Thou hast done foolishly, and thou hast not kept the commandment of the Lord thy God, which he commanded thee. For now would the Lord have established thy kingdom upon Israel forever, but now thy kingdom shall not continue. The Lord hath sought him a man after his own heart, and the Lord hath commanded him to be captain over his people, because thou hast not kept that which the Lord commanded thee. The second example of this is in 1 Samuel. The second example of his rebellious spirit is in 1 Samuel 15. And for the sake of this video, I'm not going to read all of it, but I will summarize. Please read it on your own, though. So the Amalekites fought against Israel when God had led them out of Egypt. And God wanted Saul to destroy all that the Amalekites have and not spare them. 1 Samuel 15, 9 through 11. Right. So, God wanted him to destroy everything, but this is what he did. But Saul and the people spared Agag, and the best of the sheep, and of the oxen, and of the fatlings, and the lambs, and all that was good, he would not all that was good, and would not utterly destroy them. But everything that was vile and refused, that they destroyed utterly. Then came the word of the Lord unto Samuel, saying, It repenteth me that I have set up Saul to be king, for he is turned back from following me, and hath not performed my commandments. And it grieved Samuel, and he cried unto the Lord all night. So Saul's excuse for not obeying God was that he saved the sheep and oxen instead of destroying them so that he could sacrifice them to God in 1 Samuel 15:15. All right, we'll turn there. And Saul said, "They have brought them from the Amalekites, for the people spared the best of the sheep and the oxen to sacrifice unto the Lord thy God, and the rest we have utterly destroyed." And then Samuel replied to him and said, and this is 1 Samuel 15, verses 22 through 23. And Samuel said, "Hath the Lord as great delight in burnt offerings and sacrifice as in obeying the voice of the Lord? Behold, to obey is better than sacrifice, and to hearken than the fat of rams." God wants you to obey. So, as you can see, God's grace is not a license to sin, and his grace towards you does not mean you will make it into heaven. It means you have a fighting chance to make it to heaven if you obey his commandments. So that's it for this video, and I should see you soon with the second part and then the third part, hopefully.